Welcome back, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Unexplained and Unsolved podcast.
Today, we will be talking about the legendary creature, the Thunderbird.
We're super excited to introduce our next cryptid into the series.
Be sure to like and subscribe, and I hope you guys enjoy the video.
The Thunderbird is a legendary creature in certain North American indigenous peoples' history and culture. It is considered a supernatural being of power and strength. It can be found in art, songs, and stories passed down from generation to generation. It gained more popularity, however, in modern times and joined the ranks with cryptids like Bigfoot and Nessie. So, me and Dakota really like this cryptid. It seems like it's not that very prevalent in like pop culture or anything, so it seems like a lot of people may not know about it. And that's like one of the reasons why we wanted to talk about it, because we wanted to, I guess, shed a little bit more light on it. So with that being said, how did you find about the Thunderbird, Dakota?
So when I was younger, I used to be terrified of the Thunderbird after I watched an episode of The Lost Tape. It's a show I used to watch when I was like young, which was a really bad idea because it used to terrify the living crap out of me, especially the episode with like vampires, because it was just terrifying. But yeah, that's how I found out about Thunderbird.
So I know when we were talking about what kind of cryptid we were gonna make a video about, you said you were like super afraid of the Thunderbird itself, like when you were younger.
Yeah, it just terrified me, especially after like seeing the episode from Off the Lost Tapes, because like whenever I would hear thunder, it would terrify me, because that's all I would think about. Because in the episode it said something along the lines of, if you hear thunder for no reason and it's like not a storm, that Thunderbirds flying around because its wings are so big that it makes a thunderous noise, which just terrified the living daylights out of me when I was like 5, 6, 7.
So I also heard about the Thunderbird when I was younger. I actually ended up doing like a school project about it. I think it was maybe the 4th or 5th grade. And I was looking for the actual like project, because I know I have it somewhere. I have to find it, and maybe I can post a picture of it when I do find it. I never really found it like scary. I always just thought it was like kind of cool, because like Native American culture always really intrigued me, so it just made me want to do like even more research about it.
So what we found is it's really popular among the Algonquian and Iroquois people in the eastern part of Canada and northeastern United States surrounding the Great Lakes.
So maybe that's what made you like super afraid of it, because we actually live right by Lake Erie, which is a part of the Great Lakes, so this thing could be in our backyard at any moment. So like most legends in the Native American culture, there is different depictions in separate tribes. So for instance, the Ojibwe version of the myth states that the Thunderbirds were actually created by the Nanbozo for the purpose of fighting the underwater spirits, and we will talk more about these spirits later in the video. They also believe that they were used to punish humans who broke moral rules, and these Thunderbirds were just like any other birds, so they migrated to the south at the end of, I guess, when these like water spirits would be out. So these Thunderbirds had to watch out for the ops, essentially, which is like pretty crazy, because these creatures seem like they were like super duper powerful, and you can just tell that these like creatures were super powerful and super popular, because throughout, like we said, like the Native American culture, they're like symbolized in totem poles and on clothing and carved rocks and like everything. So it just seems that people were really like getting behind this creature. And another tribe that we would like to mention is the Menominee. They talked about like a big mountain in the western sky that floated on top of the Thunderbirds. They controlled the rain and hail, and they also were enemies with the great horned snakes, and those were like the creatures that we were talking about, like the underground creatures that we were talking about earlier, because I guess these like great horned snakes wanted to take over the earth and destroy mankind.
So on the next topic, the Thunderbird are also thought to be some sort of dinosaur. American scientists, historian, and folklorist Adrian Mayer and British historian Tom Holland, not Spider-Man, by the way, have a theory that suggested that indigenous Thunderbird stories are based on discoveries of pterosaur fossils by Native Americans, which could be possible that it could just be the fossils of a dinosaur or just like a very large bird. I think like back then there probably could have definitely, like 100 years ago, maybe just 100 years ago, there could have been giant birds flying around. I mean, maybe not like a lot. It's not gonna be like a basic like see a robin flying around. It's gonna be like a giant bird like that everyone's gonna see and hear in the sky.
Right. And like I feel like also back then, you know, when America was like not as discovered, like they're still like finding stuff like every single day, you know. It's like they don't really know for sure like what was around back then, because like just because they haven't like found it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, you know.
They also say that despite variations, the design elements within different tribal groups across the continent appear to be similar to prehistoric flying reptiles such as eagle or raptor with feathered wings and a tail.
Which, I mean, that could be true, but like I said, I feel like it just goes deeper than just like some dinosaur bones, you know? Like,
yeah,
I don't think that they just, you know, made like a whole like urban legend. At least that's like what I'm kind of like getting from it, is like they think that they created the urban legends just because, you know, like these bones were found and they're like, oh yeah, like that, you know, that's something that we can make up.
I mean, I think there's definitely been like large birds flying around before, especially within like the past 200 years. There's had to have been like birds with like 10 feet wingspan that can make like loud thunderous noises whenever they flap their wings.
Yeah, and like, I mean, because a lot of birds go, or just like species of like animals go extinct too throughout the years, so it's like, who knows like what really like existed back then. Like we said before, you know, they can't really say, you know, oh, this didn't live back in the day, because like they weren't back then, you know, they weren't living back then, so like how are they gonna say like what was there, what wasn't, you know?
Yeah, I feel like also Thunderbirds, well, I mean, any like reptile and like birds are like descents from dinosaurs, but I feel like the Thunderbird could have been like a very like last few like descendants of flying dinosaurs, like the
pterodactyl.
Yeah, like pterodactyls and stuff. Like,
yeah,
where it comes in between of being like dinosaur and like an everyday like now like bird that you see,
like stuck in like transition or something, you mean? Yeah, I mean that's a pretty cool theory,
like stuck in like evolution.
Yeah,
so it's just like a giant bird,
right?
Or it could have been just like a normal bird that still has like some of the features of its ancestors to make it just larger than normal.
Right. Or for like, you know, the real conspiracy theorists out there, it could be like some secret government spy bird that like watches on people, you know?
Yeah.
Like a freaking ginormous bird controlled like airplane or something, you know?
Yeah, they could have had like big ones and now they upgraded to like small pigeons to steer through people's windows every day.
So before we end off this video, we kind of just want to talk about like the little bit of impact that the Thunderbird had on like society like today. Like for instance, the company Ford actually named one of their cars after the Thunderbird. It's called the Ford Thunderbird, which looking at the pictures right now, it doesn't really like look like a bird or like any type of design. I think they just like used the logo. It kind of looks like a Thunderbird design.
So yeah. Another thing that I found interesting that we see when we were researching the Thunderbird is that the Pokemon called Zapdos is based on the Thunderbird.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. I never really thought about it like that because, like, you know, we were like really into Pokemon and stuff, and I've heard of Zapdos before, obviously, but I never would have thought that like it would be based off of like a legend, you know?
Yeah.
Even though it's like a legendary Pokemon, obviously, but I just thought that was pretty cool too. So that's going to be the end of this video. There honestly wasn't really that much that we could find to like talk about when it came to like the legend itself. We pretty much touched on everything. But what we want to do for our next video is we're going to tell stories from the Thunderbird, like any scary stories that we can find or just like Native American accounts from the Thunderbird, like experiences or anything.
Yeah, overall it's a very interesting topic. There's multiple different theories of where it could have came from, what the legend like really is, of like if it's a dinosaur, if it's they just found like dinosaur fossils and made up all this stuff, or if it truly is just a giant bird.
Which, I mean, I feel like that's kind of what makes these cryptids like really interesting, is that there's always that factor of, is it real or is it not? You know, it's like you want to believe that it's real, but there's also always going to be people out there that don't believe that it's real, and they're going to have like kind of like theories to combat your theories about the cryptid.
Okay, so that is the end of the video. We hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe and smack the living crap out of that bell icon, and we will catch you in the next video. Bye. Be sure to like and subscribe, guys. Why can't I say subscribe?